Good morning and welcome to the summer commencement ceremonies of Baylor University School of Law. We are so pleased that you are with us this morning as we send these graduates on to their careers and on to a life of service. Commencement days are always days of memory, and they are days in which we are thankful both for what we have been able to share with our graduates, and of course we are sending them, as noted, forward to be Baylor lawyers, capital B, capital L. As we begin our ceremony today, I will call upon a member of the class, Emmanuel Marga, to deliver the invocation. Emmanuel.
Our Father in heaven, we are so thankful unto Thee for this opportunity that we have to be here today and celebrate this great accomplishment. We're grateful for the faculty and all of our friends and family that have supported us and the opportunity that we have to receive a higher education. Father, at this time we ask for a blessing upon us as we go out into the world, that we will stay true to the values that we were taught and that we will magnify the offices that we will have. We're grateful unto Thee for this opportunity, Father, and we say these things in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Emmanuel, and once again, welcome to our summer commencement ceremonies. This morning, needless to say, we are in an unusual situation. This is not the type of commencement ceremony that we have ever experienced previously. But even in the days of COVID-19, it is so important that we do mark the departure of our students as they go into life and in the profession as Baylor lawyers. The live stream this morning, of course, has been provided to assure that the family and the friends of the graduates are part of this ceremony. And I think it is very fitting that we begin this ceremony, as always, with a recognition that the family and friends, the loved ones of the members of the class, of course, have supported them, have nurtured them since they were born, and brought them to this point of achievement. Graduates, you have earned it. There is no question that you have been around the block of Baylor Law School, which is an exceptionally rigorous journey. However, we are in a context here at graduation obligated to acknowledge that you did not get here just by yourself. And so with that, even though this is a live stream, your family and friends can see you, and I ask you to stand, turn around to the live stream cameras, and let's thank those who brought you here, the spouses, the parents, the aunts, the uncles, the grandparents, the children, all of those who have supported you along this journey. At Baylor Law School, we have a powerful service theme. It runs through our entire program. We remind our students on the first day of orientation as they join us that to be an effective lawyer, you have to have a heart for people, because at the bottom line, lawyering is about solving the problems of people. And we, of course, do have a remarkable pro bono and public service program. We're so proud that it has garnered now, over the last decade, 10 awards from the American Bar Association, from the Access to Justice Foundation in Texas, and from the State Bar of Texas. And many of our graduates here this morning have been very involved in those pro bono and public service activities. Marion Edelman, the founder of the Children's Defense Fund, of course, once observed that service is not something that is optional in our lives. It is essentially the rent that we pay for our being. And as we send these graduates out into the profession, we send them with that admonition to every day carry in their heart the reality, the obligation, and the sense of commitment to help others. And we have seen, of course, over the past months that never before, perhaps, at least in modern history, have we had our nation in such a situation now with so many who are wanting, so many who have been marginalized, so many who do not know what the future holds. And I believe that our Baylor lawyers, both here today and our Baylor lawyer nation, are going to and have already made everyone proud in how we are reaching out to those who are in need in so many different ways. The program at Baylor Law School is one of which we are mightily proud. And we have, of course, all the objective criteria to show the world that we are an educational experience. We're a school, we're an institution, we are a gathering and a camaraderie, if you will, of Baylor lawyers. Our graduates here today have gone through the 3 years of the program. The program is tough. Baylor Law School has repeatedly been characterized as the Marine Corps boot camp of law schools. And that's something we don't necessarily tell our students when we're trying to attract them to Baylor Law, but of course they soon learn that as they begin in the program. Every day in the Law Center, which is of course on the banks of the Brazos River, it's beautiful, but we note that every day the law school is not the law center. It's not the bricks and mortar. It is instead what happens in the classrooms and the courtrooms and in the soft seating areas and the corridors after class. It is that connect that our faculty and staff colleagues have with the students that takes them through the program, supports them as necessary, guides them, counsels them. And I want today to begin our stage introductions here by introducing you to our faculty and staff. Joining me on the stage this morning, of course, are those who will be hooding. We will be having the hooding done by Professor Jerry Powell and Professor Jim Underwood. Professor Powell, in the program, of course, there is a good deal of biographical information, but I'm just going to pull out some intangibles about each of my colleagues very briefly. Jerry Powell, family and friends, you have heard about him. He is the force within the practice court program along with Professor Wren, Professor Consular, and Professor Fraley. The practice court program is our gemstone. It's a 6-month immersion experience in the 3rd year of the program in which the students learn how to make their way around the courtroom. It is about evidence, it's about civil procedure, it's about very specific courtroom skills. It is about the art and the science of advocacy. And even if one of our graduates never steps into the courtroom, we recognize that in life, whether it be at home, in the workplace, in the community, we all have to be advocates. No matter what is in our heart, no matter what is in our head, if we cannot bring other parties to at least appreciate our viewpoint, it is for naught. And Baylor Law School has, hands down, the best advocacy program in the nation. There is no question about that. The advocacy program, though, of course, happens alongside our entire program. And we always hasten to add that for those who want to go into areas of law that are transactional in nature, we have such a powerful program, such a powerful faculty. My point here, before I go to the specific introductions, is that the faculty and staff colleagues make it happen each day for our students. And that is the formula we have for producing that remarkable lawyer called the Baylor lawyer. Professor Powell joined the faculty in 1986, and a couple things I want to draw out. Over the last few decades, Baylor University has designated about 24 inside of a faculty of 1,000 as master teachers. It is a designation that each one of our graduates this morning will fully appreciate. Jerry, Professor Powell, is indeed a master in the classroom. He's a master in the courtroom. He graduated number 1 in his class. He went on to a trial practice in Dallas, and we were so fortunate to have Jerry come back to join us in 1986, and he has spent these last 34 years making the practice program go. Jerry, thank you for all you do for our students and for our program. Professor Jim Underwood joined us in 2006. As with Professor Powell, he graduated first in his class from Ohio State University School of Law. He thereupon went into a trial practice for 14 years. We were fortunate to join him, or to attract him rather, to the faculty, and he teaches the students in the first year in torts. He also teaches complex litigation. And he is a very prolific author. He has produced several books, articles. He is the type of lawyer that folks look to for good counsel. The person to my left here, your left, my right, is Associate Dean Leah Teague. Leah and I have been in the Dean's office for just shy of 29 years. I always say it because it comes from the heart. I love Leah Jackson Teague as though she is my sister. We have seen our staff colleagues and our faculty colleagues, of course, through the many years, take Baylor Law School remarkably forward in terms of quality and profile. Dean Teague spends a lot of time with our students, counseling them, guiding them, sometimes sharing with them things they don't want to hear, because we are concerned about the students being able to move through the program successfully. But Leah, thank you so much for all you do for our program and for our students. One person who's absent today, he has been advised by his physician not to be here, but I must take note of. It's Professor David Gwynn, sometimes referred to as the Godfather. Professor Gwynn, I want to note, he is my friend, my mentor. He took me under his wing 45 years ago, and the gentleman means the world to me. Last night, I was up late, and I took note of the clock striking midnight. And the reason last night's midnight was very significant is because at the stroke of midnight, it was the first time in 54 years that Professor David Gwynn was not a member of the active law faculty. He retired as of yesterday. And I don't know if David is watching. He's not very good at tech. And I don't know if he can even click on a link on the webpage. But David, if you are there watching, we love you. We so highly respect you. And you're still going to be part of our family. You will, of course, continue on in your office. And you will be there to guide our students, even though you may not be part of the active faculty. We love you. The program this morning, of course, is going to give each one of our students a bit of time in the sun. And that's so important because they deserve it. The tradition we have here at the law school is that the highest ranking student in the class has an opportunity to share the sentiments of the class with the gathered family and friends, and of course the class. And with that, I call upon Kylie Calabrese, the highest ranking student in this class, one heck of a quality person. She's going to be a great lawyer to share her thoughts on today's commencement with you. Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you, Dean Tobin. It is really an honor to get to speak today, especially given that for some time there was uncertainty as to whether we would get to have a commencement at all. I commend the law school faculty for organizing this wonderful, if untraditional, solution. And really, maybe it's better that we have an untraditional commencement ceremony, since we are maybe the most untraditional graduating class of Baylor Law School. Everyone says that all Baylor lawyers have a special bond after having gone through the practice court experience. But I think it's safe to say that our class will forever have an even more special, unique bond after having been the only practice court class to complete the course on Zoom. What we lacked in in-person instruction, we made up for in messy hair, wearing pajamas in class, and telling Professor Fraley, "Sorry, Professor, you cut out. Could you repeat your question?" when we needed to buy more time to come up with an answer. And while there will undoubtedly be some who say that we had it easy for our PC experience, We know that's not true. We have all demonstrated a remarkable ability to adapt and make the best out of a seriously bad hand. I am immensely proud of each of us for meeting the challenge. Next, I'd like to make sure to thank, on behalf of the class, all the loved ones who are watching online. None of us could have achieved this extraordinary accomplishment without your love and support. I would particularly like to thank my parents who made the trip down to Waco just to watch from my apartment. 2020 is actually my 10th straight year in higher education as a student. To say my parents have been patient while I figure out what I want to be when I grow up is an incredible understatement. They have been so supportive and generous, and I am truly blessed to have them. I know that my classmates all feel the same about their loved ones today as well. Back when we were in our first quarter of law school, in Contracts 1 class, Professor Ryan, who's not here today, made a remark that has always stuck with me. He told us, "Law school moderates everyone." I've reflected on that statement a lot, and I've come to the conclusion that he's mostly right. Law school has indeed moderated me some. I've noticed that I am now less quick to judge. I wait to understand the nuance of situations before jumping to conclusions. In many situations, I can see the value in compromise more readily, and I'm more willing to hear out people who have different opinions than my own, Professor Ryan included. But while it's true that that moderation is in some ways invaluable, and with all due respect to Professor Ryan, I've also found during law school that there are some things about which we need to be radical. We are entering the legal profession during one of the most tumultuous times in our history. From a global pandemic to people fighting for long overdue racial justice and reports of oppressive tactics being used by police forces, now, more than ever, the world needs passionate advocates, maybe even radical advocates. Lawyers who are radical about their duties to help others, radical in their commitment to not become cynical or jaded members of the legal profession, and radical when it comes to the incredible privilege that we have as lawyers, the privilege to advocate for those who cannot advocate for themselves. So I hope we all enjoy today and celebrate in whatever untraditional way we are able. We certainly deserve to celebrate ourselves after the past few months we've been through. But after that, I hope we all stay inspired and refreshed and ready to tackle the next challenge, to make sure we truly appreciate the awe-inspiring privilege and responsibility that we now have as Baylor lawyers to serve our communities. I'm confident that we will all face this new challenge with the same grace and self-reliance with which we've approached these last quarters of law school. Thank you, and congratulations, graduates.
Kylie came to me before the beginning of the ceremony today, and she said, "Dean, I'm just really nervous." And I told Kylie, "You're going to do superbly, like you have done everything these past few years." And Kylie, you just did it, okay? So relax now, and let's enjoy. Wonderful remarks. I have introduced some of my colleagues here on the stage, and in a moment I will introduce the speaker, Professor Jeremy Consular. But before we go any further, I want to acknowledge the fact that we have several of our faculty and staff colleagues here today, and you may not be able to see them, but class, let's stand up and applaud and thank each of our faculty and staff colleagues. Professor Jeremy Consular is our commencement speaker today. This is an honor. The commencement speaker is chosen by the graduating class. I think it's very significant that this is not the first rodeo for Professor Consular as a commencement speaker. I don't know how often he has done it, but I think it has surpassed 5 fingers. And that is powerful evidence of how the students regard Professor Consular. He has been with us on the faculty since 2003. He is a double bear in the sense that he went through our program at Baylor Law and was an absolute standout both in terms of academics and advocacy. Prior to that, he had earned a Master's of Business Administration degree from the Hankamer School of Business at Baylor. Following graduation, he clerked for Judge Ronaldo Garza on the United States Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit, and thereafter he went to the firm then named Bracewell and Patterson, where he was in the trial section. We were fortunate enough to attract Jeremy back to Baylor Law, and it's so significant that he teaches civil procedure. For those of us here, we know that CivPro is the first class that the students experience in the first year of their studies. And Professor Consular has a wonderful ability in the classroom to both use the carrot and the stick. He is very respectful of the students. He's very funny. He puts the students in the position of not wanting to disappoint him in their preparation and recitation. And that's a mighty wonderful thing for a teacher to be able to do. Some years ago, Professor Consular decided that he wanted to have a better sense of what it was like to be in the courtroom in the criminal, specifically the prosecution context. And he took a period of time to prosecute in the McLennan County District Attorney's Office. And I always have admired that because that shows the type of teacher that he is. He saw an area in trial advocacy that he was not familiar with, so he decided that he was going to become familiar with it, and he took that time to prosecute here in McLennan County. Professor Consular has written books, he has written articles, he is very prolific. He is a person on our law faculty who is an opinion maker, and class, you have chosen very wisely to bring Professor Consular before you today to share remarks with you. With that, I call upon Professor Jeremy Consular for remarks to the class. Professor Consular.
Thank you, Dean Tobin. Graduates, I am so pleased to be here today celebrating with you, and it's just good to see you all in person. I'm especially glad to be with you in Waco Hall. It's my favorite venue for Baylor Law School graduations, because this is where I walked across the stage and became a Baylor lawyer. Now, my commencement was different than yours. We didn't sit quite so far apart as you are today. None of us wore masks, and our families were here. I know the hardest part about this ceremony is that your families are not physically present today. But graduates, I hope you will recall from civil procedure that physical presence is not the only sort of presence there is. Your families are present, just as they have been for you throughout your time in law school. To all the moms and dads and grandparents and spouses and significant others, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, cousins, kids, and friends watching this ceremony remotely, we know you are here. We know you have been here in support of your beloved graduates since they embarked on the daunting task of earning a Baylor Law degree. So family and friends, let me tell you something you already know. Your loved one who walks across this stage today is someone special, and the pride you feel in them is absolutely justified. Graduates, I'm jealous of your parents. The fact that you are graduating law school today is nearly conclusive proof that you turned out okay. My kids are 19, 16, and 12, so things could still go either way with them. It would be a relief if one of my children became a lawyer like you, graduates, but they aren't even mulling it over. My 12-year-old daughter, Kate, has a long list of possible careers, including physical therapist, veterinarian, and owning and operating a little cafe here in Waco. The cafe is my personal favorite, but lawyer isn't on her list and never has been. For a while, I thought Kate might want to become a lawyer because she liked to spend a lot of time with me up at the law school, but it turns out she was just stealing office supplies from the workroom. Our 16-year-old daughter, Brett, would make a fantastic lawyer, but she has decided to be a psychologist instead. So far from inspiring her to be a lawyer, you just know she thinks I've inflicted some sort of psychological trauma on her. My 19-year-old son, who's a sophomore here at Baylor, is going to be a professional film actor. Oh, a professional film actor, you say? Imagine how nervous your mother and I would be if you were only aiming to be an amateur film actor. Now, my wife and I would be the first to admit that we are not the perfect parents, but I would give us an A+ on one aspect of family life: food. We are really good at food, and in particular, we are really good at family meals. We eat at the dining table together almost every night. We sometimes spend hours talking after we've finished eating. No topic is off limits. Cell phones and tablets are not permitted except with permission to display a demonstrative aid that might help others understand your point. It's a safe space to say what you think, and the only people you might upset love you. We talk politics, religion, pop culture, or just what we did that day. In this time of a global pandemic, when we rarely venture out of the house, the what we did that day topic has dried up, because what we did that day is pretty much the same as what we've been doing every day for the last 4.5 months. Come to think of it, this may be the first building I've entered that doesn't have shopping carts and a produce section. You're amongst the first people I've seen in the flesh who aren't related to me by blood or marriage. And I know for a fact that this is the first meeting I've attended where I can't mute my camera. At a family dinner early on in the pandemic, we discussed the local shelter-in-place order. I told my family that I was fine with it because I don't want to go anywhere anyway. The order would keep me from having to be rude or make excuses. Pre-COVID, a friend might say to my wife and me, "Would you like to come over for dinner?" And I would say, "No, I would not." Thanks to the order, I could say, "Well, I wish we could, but it's illegal." Some friends were persistent, and they would follow up and say, "I don't think it's illegal if we keep the dinner party below a certain number of people." And then I would say, very politely, mind you, "Well, only one of us is a law professor, and he thinks your dinner party is a felony." So we stuck to eating dinner at our own dining table. For a while, major topics of conversation at dinner were the shows and movies we've been binge watching. At this point, we're all way past the Tiger King and pretty deep into the subtitled European stuff. I knew this dinner table topic was played out when I reported having watched the 1981 film Enter the Ninja for the second time. And after dinner, I was planning to watch its 1983 sequel, Revenge of the Ninja, in which the hero is the ninja that was killed in the first movie. When I reported my ninja movie marathon, the looks on my wife's and children's faces affected my self-esteem in a non-positive way. They did not appear to think any better of me when I replaced TV time with video games. Sometimes at dinner we talk public policy. And as a result, my wife and I have had to discuss with our 3 kids how the phrase, "Okay, boomer," isn't a reasoned response to one of our positions, and also how we aren't quite as old as our children think we are. Despite the pandemic, we've had some lighthearted, laughter-filled conversations at the counselor family dining table. It's fair to say, however, that the conversations grew more serious as spring turned to summer. The efforts made in the spring had not contained the virus. The case count climbed again, both locally and nationally. We had friends who were infected, and some became really sick. The virus killed a man who'd been a mentor to me when I was younger. My mom is in a nursing home. There have been cases there. She isn't able to speak on the phone, and they won't allow visitors. Her facility would not give her the things we sent. My kids had tough questions at the dinner table. What will friends do if they lose their jobs or businesses? When will we be able to go back to school, to church? Kate, as I said, is my 12-year-old. She doesn't speak into these issues around the dinner table as much as my older 2, but she asked me something that has stuck with me. "Daddy, will we read about this time in the history books?" I think Kate was trying to gauge the magnitude of the moment, and I think she was scared. I think a lot of us are at least a little bit scared, and it's hard not to be, isn't it, graduates? The pandemic has forced and will force you to face challenges. You've had to navigate courses that rapidly transition to online courses. You've had to deal with a myriad of difficulties surrounding the bar exam, as if it wasn't already stressful enough. You are beginning your careers at a time of deep economic uncertainty. And that's not all. I checked the news this morning, and the coronavirus isn't the only problem we have, not by a long shot. If you're like me, the virus isn't even the problem you're most concerned about. Graduates, if your primary goal was to get on Easy Street and to secure material wealth, you could have picked a better time to become a lawyer. If, on the other hand, you want to serve people in need, this is a really good time to become a lawyer, because there are more people in need than usual. If you want to be a guardian of the rule of law, it's a great time to be a lawyer. If you want to help fight against racial injustice and for a more perfect union wherein all have an equal opportunity for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, you have chosen an ideal time to become a lawyer. Will we read about this time in the history books? In the early 1990s, an American political scientist named Francis Fukuyama wrote a book called The End of History and the Last Man. His thesis was that the end of the Cold War and the collapse of the Soviet Union had brought about the end of history in the sense that Western liberal democracy and the rule of law would spread throughout the world and become the final form of human government. His thesis was used by others to suggest that from that moment forward, things would only get better. Graduates, your generation knows better. And it's not just the pandemic. You've lived through not one, but two economic crises. You've seen the polarization of our public and political discourse, the tribalization and paralysis in our politics. You see foreign governments interfering in our elections, global rivals invading their neighbors and placing people in re-education camps because of their ethnicity and religion. You know race still makes a difference in how you will be treated in this country, and you know that you will struggle to pay for solutions to any of these problems because our national debt is soaring. And you know that as lawyers, you will play an outsized role in leading your communities, states, and this nation in trying to solve these problems, even though you didn't cause them. You inherited them. And you know that these problems left unresolved threaten not only your future, but the peace, justice, and prosperity of the world. No, history has not ended. Far from it. Graduates, history has come for you. I think history is tapping you on the shoulder, just as it did the World War II generation, the greatest generation, and just as it did 20th century founding fathers Martin Luther King Jr. and John Lewis. I've had the privilege to deliver a few commencement addresses in recent years. Each time I knew precisely what I wanted to tell the graduates. I knew what I wanted to charge them with as they began lives of service and leadership, but I didn't say it. Instead, I sort of danced around it. I didn't say it because the request is unfair. I didn't say it because the task is overwhelming. But the hour is drawing late. And this is no time to mince words. So graduates, I'm going to tell you what I hesitated to say to other Baylor Law classes. You have to save the world. That is the task of your generation. It's a tremendous burden, I know it, and a difficult charge to accept from a person whose generation has either caused or failed to solve the problems I've mentioned. I'm making this request because we need you to do it, and because I think your generation can do it. But not everyone shares my confidence in your generation, and that's putting it mildly. Criticizing your generation is a national pastime. A recent piece in Forbes described your generation as narcissistic, lazy, and entitled. Lazy? Really? You're the only ones who are lazy? I've spent nearly 5 months watching ninja movies and playing video games. I think your critics paint with too broad a brush. Here at Baylor Law, we have the privilege to teach and train mostly 20-somethings, and in my experience, this criticism of you is unfounded. I think it's a bit rich, in fact. Your generation volunteered to fight in wars you didn't start, that began at times you hardly remember. Your generation peacefully protested police brutality in the streets. Your generation has already led on issues such as gun violence. Here at Baylor Law, members of this class volunteered their time at Adoption Day to help form new families. They worked in our immigration clinic to ensure people have a new home in this country. They worked in Africa to help children who suffer lengthy imprisonment for alleged minor crimes. So graduates, this criticism of you isn't fair, but it can be useful. All the best histories begin with the most unlikely of heroes. So the history of you won't just be important, it will be entertaining. In the meantime, I hope this criticism puts a chip on your shoulder and that you go out and lead like a generation with a chip on its shoulder. Prove the older generations wrong and let their criticism fuel you. How do you save the world? First, you have to choose to do it. These problems aren't your fault. It's not fair that this responsibility has fallen to you, but it has. I want you to choose to be the heroic generation we need you to be anyway. Too often, members of my generation and the older generation have chosen not to lead on important problems. We can't even agree that existential threats like climate change are problems. We dismiss legitimate concerns as hoaxes. We have come to view compromise as a sign of weakness and as unprincipled. We have made our personal notions of perfect the enemy of what is good. We call each other names, and too often we root for the most extreme voices. Excalibur lies in the stone, but we bicker and fiddle while the fires burn and the oceans rise. You have to do things differently. We need you to think better of one another than we have, to stop demonizing people who have a difference of opinion. We need you to find common ground. We need you to grasp the hilt of the sword firmly and pull it from the stone. We need you to become the leaders, the heroes the world needs you to be. None of you can save the world alone, but each of you has a part to play. I want you to know that there is nothing wrong with securing financial security for you and your family. I want that for you. But I think there's something wrong with doing only that. And I know you can't save the world that way. So how do you find your part? I can't tell you precisely what your part is, but I might be able to help you find it. I want to share with you a prayer written by a cleric in the Church of England and the founder of Methodism, John Wesley. It's called the Covenant Prayer. We are no longer our own, but yours. Put us to what you will. Rank us with whom you will. Put us to doing. Put us to suffering. Let us be employed for you or laid aside for you, exalted for you or brought low for you. Let us be full. Let us be empty. Let us have all things. Let us have nothing. We freely and heartily yield all things to your pleasure and disposal. The temptation to seek exaltation is familiar and very human. But for what are you willing to suffer? To be laid aside? What is the cause for which you are willing to be brought low? If you will all find that thing, you will answer history's call, and you will save the world. Thank you. Congratulations. Stay in touch, and may God bless you.
Class, Professor Consular has laid before you a remarkable challenge. Our nation is hurting. People are hurting. You have the privilege and the gift and the obligation to reach out as he has shared with you. Professor Consular, thank you for the challenge. I know that students respond to you in class, and I'm confident that they will respond to your words today addressed to them at this juncture at which they go forth into the profession as Baylor lawyers. The time has now arrived for the conferral of the degree, and I will call upon Dean Teague to present you as a class. Dean Teague.
Will the candidates please rise? Dean Tobin, the candidates standing before you have met all of the requirements prescribed by the faculty of the Baylor University School of Law, acting through the authority of the Board of Regents. It is my honor, it is my pleasure to present this class to you for the conferral of the degree.
Thank you, Dean Teague. Class, each of you have completed the requirements for the degree of Juris Doctor as prescribed by the Faculty of Law of Baylor Law School. Accordingly, upon the certification of the law faculty, and on behalf of the Baylor University Board of Regents and President Linda Livingstone, it is my pleasure and delight to confer upon you the degree of Juris Doctor. We will now go forth to the awarding of the diplomas and the hooding of each of our graduates. I want to, especially at this point, invoke the intention of the family and friends of these graduates. We have a long tradition here at Baylor Law School. It's a fun tradition, and it is the practice of making a whole lot of noise for each of the graduates as their name is called and as they come across the stage. I know with the live stream this morning you cannot do it here where we can hear you, but I challenge you to do it wherever you are watching. And I always do note that the love, the depth of love you have for your graduate is measured by us by the decibels that you can produce. In the absence of family and friends this morning here in the hall, we have supplied our graduates with lots of noisemakers, all consistent, of course, with COVID-19 protocols. And so you will hear a good deal of noise and decibels coming from the class. And all I can say to you, class, is more cowbell. Let's get started.
Remove your mask. Yeah. Let's remove your mask. Okay. Our first student is receiving 2 degrees today. He is also, in addition to the Juris Doctor that he'll be receiving, he's going to be receiving his Master of Divinity. Keith Allen Adkisson. And we have asked our graduates to hood themselves, and standing behind them or those that in a normal ceremony would be placing the hood over them. And now, unlike a normal ceremony where Dean Tobin would be handing him his diploma, each graduate is going to take their own diploma, come back to the appropriate spot so that we can do the second photograph with the degree candidate and Dean Tobin and our speaker, Professor Counselor. Lainey Nicole Bennett, cum laude. Robert Fizzle Boone, cum laude. Zach Chance Bird. The next student you've heard from, she is our highest ranking student in the graduation class, Kylie Glenn Calabrese, summa cum laude. Our next student, in addition to receiving the Juris Doctor, is going to be recognized with a special distinction in intellectual property, Christian Raphael Casabar. Thaddeus Michael Kokoris. Sandra Elizabeth Doyle. Our next graduate is not here with us physically, but we wish her well in the virtual realm. Allison Renee Ducote. Zachary J. Feeney. Alejandro Prieto Hoffman. Kira Lynn Horniak. Savannah Marie Jedkins. Oh. Bradley Allen Kuntz. Kelsey Nicole Linendahl. Emmanuel Morga. Zane Alley Pluthner. Joshua Forbes Richardson, cum laude. Salvador Jason Robles. Danelle Hope Sanders. Stephen Clark Schilter. Trenton Anderson Shelton, magna cum laude. Olivia Grace Stedeman. Kobe B. Steele. Brandon Michael Stendara, magna cum laude. Our next graduate is not here with us physically, Charles Winston Valenroth II. Shelby Danielle Zumwalt, magna cum laude. Let me just say, graduates, y'all just did an excellent job, and we didn't want to tell you this ahead of time to make you nervous, but hooding is something that our faculty, who do it on a regular basis, have great difficulty in doing it and doing it well. You did an excellent job. We are so proud of you once again. Please join me in one more round of applause for our graduates.
Good job, graduates. You followed my admonishment for more cowbell. Going forth now, if you remember back to orientation when I spoke to you, I asked you to think why you are here on this earth. You have to have an answer to that each day. And I explained to you that one way I have always conceptualized why we are here is illustrated by the horizontal and the vertical. We are here to glorify God, and we are here to serve His kingdom. And that is what we are sending you out to do today. Professor Consular invoked the 18th century Anglican cleric, John Wesley. John Wesley once said, do all the good you can and by all the means you can, and all the places you can, and all the times that you can, for as long as you can. And I think that's good advice that we all need to take, especially in these days of COVID-19 and the aftermath when the virus is defeated, and it will be. Viruses can't defeat pride, our pride in you. A virus cannot reign upon our love for you. It cannot set aside the friendship that we have with you, and it will not. And we will return. We will return to a new day, and it's going to be because, as Professor Consular noted, because you will tackle the problems. You will tackle the significant challenges now being faced by our nation and by the globe. We're confident that you will do it. Your Baylor lawyers always remember when you print it, type it, it's always with a capital B, obviously, but also with a capital L, because it is not just a descriptor, it is a brand. In a moment, we will adjourn, but the ceremony today went so smoothly, and I want to thank those who have been very deeply involved in the logistics and the planning of a COVID-19 commencement exercise, especially Registrar Ms. Jerry Cunningham, Susie Daniel, Katie Casper, Nathaniel Jones, Nick Texera, Rick Soul, and here at Waco Hall, where we have experienced wonderful help and hospitality. I want to thank especially Josh Gillum and Chris Bama. Thank you so much. And of course, the beautiful music today from the keyboard provided by Chris Womack. Thank you, Chris, for adding the beauty of music to our ceremony. We will now adjourn. We will not be having a reception as we normally do, but as you go to the foyer, we will have a gift box for each of you as our graduates in whom we are so proud. And with that, we will adjourn, and I admonish you to be safe and God bless.